Take a look through Audi's back catalog and you're going to notice that some of its most important vehicles ever share one common trait, and that is a 5-cylinder engine. From the Euro Quattro of the early 1980s to the Sport Quattro that competed in the now infamous Group B Rally Racing Series, when Audi messes around with unusual cylinder counts, there's bound to be some magic. The same is still true today, where Audi's RS models dominate with their unique sound and performance figures to match. But while we know 5 cylinders today to be big performance engines, that wasn't always the case. As gas prices soared in the 1970s, Audi's engineers found themselves with a tough question to solve: how to improve power over a conventional 4-cylinder engine without the added size, weight, and inefficiencies of a 6-cylinder. The answer was a 2.1-liter naturally aspirated 5-cylinder that debuted with the 1976 Audi 100. It made a whopping 136 horsepower. Spurred on by this achievement, Audi opted to keep innovating. The 1980 Frankfurt Motor Show brought with it an icon. The Euro Quattro featured not only a 5-cylinder under the hood, but turbocharging, an intercooler, and Audi's first permanent all-wheel drive system. With little regulations for Group B racing, Audi developed its golden goose, the Sport Quattro rally car. It delivered a massive 450 horsepower from its inline 5. It won back-to-back titles in '83 and '84, cementing it into the history books. Flash forward 4 decades and Audi has not lost its way, and this brand new RS3 is a clear example of that. It's powered by a 2.5-liter turbocharged inline 5-cylinder engine. It's the most powerful road-going 5-cylinder Audi has ever made. It develops 401 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 369 foot-pounds of torque at 3,500 RPM. It's a 20-valve dual overhead cam design boosted up to 21.8 psi. The big story here, however, is its odd number of cylinders and its 1, 2, 3, 5, 3 firing order. It's the reason why this little sedan sounds like a mini V10. Because it sort of is. A V10 is just 2 inline 5s stitched together, so it's no surprise that the RS3 sounds more like an R8 than its closest competitors. With all that power on hand, the RS3 rockets to 60 in 3.6 seconds before continuing on to a top speed of 180 miles an hour. On the road, the RS3 feels absolutely lightning quick. Put your foot down and you get a little bit of turbo lag, but once the engine wakes up, it is like an unstoppable force. Given its position in the sporty sedan segment, you'd expect it to be fast, but not this fast. This feels much stronger than 400 horsepower, and that's likely due to the standard all-wheel drive system making every bit of use of that available power figure. Now, sending that power to the road is a 9-speed dual clutch transmission, which is absolutely razor sharp in manual mode, but in its auto configuration it can be a little bit lazy, and so switching it to manual for sporty driving is absolutely necessary to get the most out of the RS3. 5-cylinder aside, the other big story with the new RS3 has to do with its brand new all-wheel drive system. It does away with the typical multiple clutch pack that typically sends power to the rear axle. Instead, it features an electronically controlled clutch pack on each drive shaft. This allows the RS torque splitter to fully distribute rear axle power between the rear wheels. Rear axle power is up to 50% of total output. Audi claims this results in better stability through fast corners. As you corner, the RS torque splitter increases drive torque to the outside wheel to reduce understeer. For example, through a left turn, power would go to the right wheel. On the road, you can absolutely feel the difference. There's tremendous balance and grip as you can feel the car wanting to cling on for dear life. Now, if you want to mess around, Audi has a brand new drift mode, which I probably technically shouldn't tell you works well because it's only supposed to be used on the track. The main limiting factor in this car has to be the tires, because while you can get Pirelli P0 Corsas as an optional extra technically for the track, the standard Pirelli tire that comes on this car just isn't all that great. It doesn't grip very well initially, and it takes a long time to heat up, and even then it's not really as good as an equivalent Michelin tire. So you can really feel when you drive this car that it's the tires that are letting it down, because the whole chassis is balanced. You can feel that this car is incredibly capable if it had the right rubber. Now the new RS3 does not have magnetic suspension, but it still has active suspension with dynamic chassis control. It scans the road and adjusts dampening accordingly. However, up in the canyons, the ideal configuration is actually leaving the suspension in comfort and having everything else turned up into sport, because the car is still incredibly comfortable, but you get more of that sound in the cabin and the reaction you want from the engine. Now, aside from just having upgraded suspension, the RS3 sits 10 millimeters lower than a regular S3 and 25 millimeters lower than an A3. So not only is it a performance change, it's a visual one as well. Now the RS3 comes standard with steel brakes, 6-piston calipers, and 14.8-inch discs. However, carbon ceramics are available with 15-inch discs. On the road, you won't feel the braking difference from the carbon ceramics. What you will feel is the 22-pound difference in the loss of unsprung weight, which should make the RS3 feel significantly lighter and even help with turn-in. Now, like every other modern Audi, this has electric power steering, and it's just as bad as every other Audi I've driven. It's my constant criticism that's pretty much across the board, even in the freaking R8. Unfortunately, there's just no feel coming through. It's absolutely dead, and it just doesn't allow me to connect with the car as much as I would like to. And the only way I can tell that I'm going into understeer is when the tires start screaming for dear life. But there's no real communication and interaction between the car and the driver. That's really unfortunate, because this car has such fantastic bones and a powertrain that great steering would just be the icing on the cake, and unfortunately it's just not there. If you're going to charge over $70,000 with options for a small sporty sedan, it needs to look the part. Nothing would crush an Audi fan's heart quicker than hearing someone say, "Hey, we've got the same car," only to realize they're talking about a lowly A3 at less than half the price. Luckily, the RS3 covers its bases well. This little sedan has presence with a track that is 1.3 inches wider than the car it replaces, while adding exuberant, bulging bodywork to match. This Audi counts on chunky styling elements that portray size and aggressiveness. Take the large front intakes that flank the central grille as an example. The bright bodywork color surrounding them not only highlights their presence, but also serves to visually widen the entire front end. This is important as those bulging wheel arches extend the RS3 considerably. Despite being nearly 9 inches shorter than an A4, it's still wider by 0.2 inches. To the untrained eye, the RS3's added flair makes it look significantly larger than it actually is. It's also helped along by a set of standard 19-inch wheels that, thanks to their large size, help the RS3 look very proportional. For $750, Audi will give those wheels a matte black treatment and replace all the shiny chrome badging for stealthier gloss black options. Nothing outdoes the color on this car. This tester features a python yellow paintwork, a bright shade of yellow with subtle hints of green that is by far the brightest color available. If driving a canary bird isn't your thing, Audi offers Tango Red, Turbo Blue, and Kailami Green. Inside, there are abundant reminders that you've just spent over $70,000 on a small Audi. While this is technically an entry-level RS model, you'd never know it from its interior. There are high-quality materials everywhere you look and touch. From the perforated leather on the steering wheel to the quilted leather seats and abundance of onboard tech, this RS3 feels expensive. Compare its interior to something like the RS5 that routinely costs over $90,000, and you'll find more similarities than differences. In the center of the dash, you'll find a 10.1-inch screen with Audi's latest MMI system. If that seems familiar, it's because it's the same screen found in the six-figure e-tron GT we tested a few weeks ago. There's not much to report about Audi's infotainment system. It's responsive, well laid out, and has a surprisingly low learning curve. Thankfully, if you prefer a smartphone-based system, the RS3 offers wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Despite being the smallest sedan Audi currently sells in the US, the RS3 is not small. Nothing highlights this more than sitting in the driver's seat for more than a few seconds. As you fall into its 8-way adjustable seats and you look up, you're going to notice seemingly endless headroom. Someone well above 6 feet tall would have no problems in this car. The same goes for the space surrounding you as well. Since Audi did away with the traditional gear selector, this car's cabin feels very open and airy. Despite being significantly shorter than an A4, the rear seats have good space as well. They aren't road trip ready, but most adults should have no problems on shorter drives. Now the RS3 starts at $59,995 including destination. However, expect to pay somewhere between $70,000 to $75,000 for a car like the one I'm driving today. And frankly, that is a lot of money, but thankfully the RS3 delivers in every area where you'd expect it to. It's wonderful to drive, incredibly powerful, and very, very high quality. So where it counts, the RS3 absolutely nails it. Thank you for watching, and as always, please make sure to like and subscribe because it'll help us grow this channel. And as always, go in those comments and let me know what kind of cars you want to see. I will do my best to get them for a future video. But until then, take care.